Hello, I'm Kimberly Henry, and this is Living the Good Life. In this series, we'll feature conversations around ways to embrace the goodness of life and take a big, juicy bite out of it. Food for the soul and the funny bone. Learn to give more time to yourself, become a better friend, lead an amazing life, and how to tell the best joke at the party. Living the good life can mean different things to different people. Whatever it is for you, I hope you'll find some inspiration here to live your most joyful, authentic life. Now, on to today's conversation. Today, I'll be chatting with Patti Scallan, who has been in the alternative healthcare field for 20 years and owned a holistic wellness center for 10 of those years. Patti says her passion is to help people physically, emotionally, financially, and believes the body was designed to heal itself if we give it what it needs. We were meant to live lives, according to Patti, of abundance, of joy, health, and wealth. And if we lead with a heart of service, we are limitless. Patti, welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here, Kimberly.
We had an opportunity to chat just a few days ago to get to know each other a little bit. And so I know that you have made a kind of a life transition to
Kat.
live that life of abundance. So I'd love, where are you now? And kind of walk us through what that looked like for you in terms of taking some control, if you will, of your life's journey.
Oh, I think that through the years, I've been pretty good at taking those leaps of faith. I don't really fear not things not working out because I always feel that you can just make a shift and you'll be okay. So what you're referring to is 8 years ago, kind of spur of the moment, we decided to move to the beach, which was always a dream of ours. But what happened is when I had my holistic center, I had a client that I was very, very close with, and she passed, and she was only in her 50s. I sang her funeral. It really touched me. And in that same week, there were two other people that had passed, and they were on their 50s, and we were in our 60s at the time. So I went home to my husband. I said, let's not wait. Let's just go and look. And in 3 months, we bought a home, and in 6 months, we were down here. So it was scary, but exciting. I said to my husband, we sell our house, we buy the house. If it doesn't work, we sell the house, we get an apartment. Come from that place of being grateful for what I have. And I think because of that, the universe has always met me, like even with my holistic wellness. Well, my first career actually was in banking. I was in that for 12 years. And then I stayed home to raise my babies. And then I had taken a part-time job at a homeopathic company, Boron. Some of you may know that. And it just really caught my interest as far as healing naturally, because I do genuinely believe that God designed our bodies to heal itself, but we do need to give it what it needs. And that looks very different today than it may have looked 50 years ago, when our foods weren't contaminated, or the soils, or, different things. Like 50 years ago, you could eat an orange and have all those wonderful vitamin C's, everything. Now you'd have to probably eat 15 of them to get the same thing, which is
Right.
unfortunate. However, there are ways today. There's so many wonderful supplements out there that can help you along that journey. So in any event, that just really triggered a desire in me to learn more and continue to learn, because I am a lifelong learner. I just feel like we don't know what we don't know, right? And then I also think that as we move along in life, things do change. Like there were years when fat was bad. Don't eat fat, it's going to make you fat. Well, in fact, that's totally false. But we fall into that trap of, whatever the hype is of the day. We do our research. And over the years, I feel like I've learned so much. I feel like I have a lot more to learn, and I'm okay with that. But when I do learn something, I like to share. When I had my center was primarily service-based, but I would always share the wisdom that I learned along the way in how to better take care of ourselves, because I do believe it almost sounds cliche, mind, body, spirit, but no, it's really true. We have to have a balance of those things. When I think of mind, I think of self-care and are we being social? Are we out around people? Because that all impacts our mind and our
Mhm.
emotions, right?
Mhm.
And then, the body, it's not just nutritional, it is nutritional. But I
Mhm.
think that for years, many people just focused on vitamins, but minerals are vitally important also, right? And
Yes.
then I genuinely believe that, and this is in my 25 years in this field, that all chronic illness really stems from cellular dysfunction.
And
Now,
that has to do with a lot of things. There's a lot of reasons that your cells get out of whack. Before we dive into the science of it, though, I want to know specifically, Patty, what are you doing for yourself to create that joy and health and abundance? What makes your day worthwhile?
well, I genuinely love talking to people and
Yeah.
love giving them guidance.
Mhm.
And I think that when we help another person, that gives us something, right? I
Mhm.
believe that when we talk to people, if we can leave them just a little bit better than when we first engaged in conversation, then that makes my day worthwhile.
Mhm.
Feel that we are responsible for our health, not our doctors. So I do try and do some type of exercise every day. I
Mhm.
walk, I do a little bit of strength training in between, and just so I do something each day. And I tell people, if you can't put in 30 minutes, put in 5 minutes,
Mhm.
right? Every little bit helps. I am conscious of what I eat, but am I perfect? Of course not. I like to live in the world. I enjoy things too. So I like to try and find a balance. And then there's also that balance between work and play, right? I think
Mhm.
that there are those that have their nose to the grindstone so much so that they forget what it is to enjoy life. Like one of the things my husband and I do, and we do it twice a day. As soon as we get up, we make a pot of coffee and we play the Wordle games, the
Oh
Wordle, the
yeah.
actionable. So we
Yep.
spend about, I'd say 30 to 40 minutes every morning. And when he gets home from work, we do it again. And that's our time together doing something that we both really enjoy.
Mhm.
Plus, when you're doing those word games, it's really good for our brain,
Mhm.
and as we age, that's really important, right? To
Mhm.
stay active. So all those little things are part of what makes my day, I feel, joyful. I
Mhm.
Gratitude is just so powerful, and that we all have those down days. I'm not saying we don't. We all have things that we have to deal with. But in the moment, we can have something like that. But if we just switch our thought for a moment and say, but what can I be grateful for right now? And that can help shift us. And it can be little things like, people want to say, well, my family, this and that, and that's all well and good. But do you know one of the things that starts my day with gratitude? It seems like a little thing, but every day that I get into the shower and I feel that warm water on my body, I am
Yeah.
so grateful. It truly brings that moment of, ah, how blessed am I? Because there's a lot of people in the world that can't do that, right?
Right.
So I'm saying when it's something as little as that can bring you joy, and it's really being conscious, right? Being conscious of what we're experiencing all day long. And like I said, sometimes it's not fun. I understand that, but we can shift. We have the power to do that.
What about, and I know this isn't really what we're here to talk about, but I think for some people, the fear is what we're talking about here, right? The fear is almost their best friend, and it's hard to say, but I'm grateful for this but this isn't going so well. So, do you have any advice on how to make that switch?
Now, I think that, and I've often thought about this,
Mm-hmm.
that probably never happened. And I remember thinking that each decade, when we're in our 20s and we first get married and we're fearful of buying a home or investing in this or getting a car or whatever, then we get to the 30s and we look back and go, oh, the 20s were okay. We did
Yes.
fine. And then you're in the 30s and you're raising kids and you're thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to pay for that tuition? And the food is getting so expensive and all of these things. And then you get to your 40s and you look back and go, oh, we did okay. So I that if we again look back, and I just genuinely believe that if we try and be grateful for anything in the moment, it can help to dispel that fear. And the fear, I feel that there's always joy on the other side of fear. Doesn't mean we don't feel the fear, but
Mhm.
sometimes we just need to push through that fear.
Mhm.
And if you have somebody really a good friend in your circle, or maybe it's a spouse, or just anyone that has that really good energy, that high vibration, reach out and say, I'm really struggling with this. That's not weakness, that's strength. When you have the nerve to call someone and say, you know what, I just need a little help. I just need to vent, or I need a little guidance. But I genuinely believe that most of the things we fear don't ever happen. And so
Mhm.
what that does is we end up expending so much energy on that we don't have enough energy to produce what we really want to produce, which is that life of joy and abundance, right? Because
Right.
we spend so much time there and it is addicting. So you want to shift that.
You're addicted to fear. I think we all are. Because it did serve a purpose, and it does serve a purpose in some circumstances. But what you're really talking about, I think, is resilience, that pushing through, and then actually not only just pushing through and getting through it, but building skills and self-esteem, getting through those years. So at the end of each decade, you can look back and say, not only did we make it through, but we did that. And
Right.
I think in my conversations with people, some of our most fond memories are times when things weren't going so well and we pushed through.
We're very powerful beings.
Mm.
The fear, when we really lean into that, we're giving away our power. I had an experience years ago where it was a pretty significant betrayal, right? And when I came, on the other side of that, it was like I had to play a mind game. And every time I started to think, how could she have done that to me? I would stop the thought halfway through. And then the
Mhm.
next time it would be, how could, and I'd go, nope, not going there. And I would
Mm.
stop the thought. And then it got to the point where I just didn't allow myself to think about it at all. It doesn't mean that it didn't happen, but it
Right.
doesn't have to, like, if somebody made you a victim, I understand that. But if you continue in that story, then you are making yourself the victim. So for
Mhm.
me, in that very moment, when I would start to think that negative thought, I literally respond to music. So I would either listen to a song or sing a song, or I would think about one of the babies in our family, something that would make me smile, that would get me out of that. It was a very directed tool that I used. I mean, I really worked on that. But what a difference it made. And then it brought me to a place of compassion for that other person.
Mhm.
What a blessing that was. And like you just said, sometimes we look back and go, oh, you know what? That did help me grow. And it did. And so to this day, I just, look at her with compassion. Yeah.
Yeah. And back to your original thought about gratitude and how that helps, what our brain sees, whether it's something we're thinking or something that's actually happening, affects our body the same, is what I understand
That's
from
true. Yep.
folks
That's
that I've
very true.
studied. Yeah.
Yeah. That
So,
that our subconscious can produce the same results as something in our conscious, which
mhm.
means we have to be very careful what we're feeding our
Yes.
mind. Like a lot of people watch a lot of challenging things on TV, right?
Mhm.
I don't want to watch violence because it stresses me out. And then there is that, subconscious back here about the evils of that. So why put it in your brain? So, there's a lot of good things we can do and watch and read and say to feed that subconscious mind so
Hmm.
that yeah, because it does affect our bodies. It absolutely affects our bodies.
Right. And so let's talk about the five pillars of health that I know that you like to talk about. How can someone use these, generally speaking, to create the life they want to live?
Okay. So the five pillars that I kind of coach on is nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress management, and hydration. They're the ones that I talk about most. Again, I still feel that cellular functions at the concrete foundation they stand on. But with those pillars, here's what I say to people: start small. I think that January 1st is one of those days like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going on a diet. I'm going to start exercising every day. And by February 1st, they've fallen away. Well,
Hmm.
they've bit off more than they could chew right now. And I always feel like if you can't take a 30-minute walk, take a 5-minute walk, go outside, go down the corner, around and back. Start
Hmm.
small. The same thing with, diets. Like sugar is very damaging. It's really causes inflammation in our body, which really impacts every health challenge out there, right? If you say, well, cut out sugar today, will you stick with that? Probably not.
It's very difficult in this
Very
society.
difficult. But
Hmm.
if you can make little changes, right? Same thing with carbs. If you're eating carbs 3 meals a day, start with just cutting out one meal where you're not eating a carb, and then because you will begin to see when you cut out those things, the energy starts coming back. Your mood will come back too. See, that's another whole subject, but depression
Hmm.
is partly a gut issue. So
Hmm.
what we eat leans into that. And
Yeah.
instead of getting on an antidepressant, there are ways to deal with that. But what we eat affects everything. So
Hmm.
the nutrition piece is so very important. But as I said, take one step at a time so that you're not overwhelmed. And when you stick with that for a week or 2 weeks, then maybe add one more thing to that. I
Hmm.
we are creatures of habit with what we eat, right? And if you were to make a list of everything you eat, you probably have about 20 things that you regularly eat within a week. So then look at those things and figure out how many of those are whole foods and how many are processed. You begin to take that processed food and replace it with a whole food. And again, I'm not saying do it all at once, but just say take three of those things and do a healthy alternative.
Hmm.
And as you begin to feel better, you're going to want to change the rest of those things because, as I said, we are creatures of habit. So once we
Hmm.
create those good habits, we will feel the difference.
So, be-
Hydration. Oh,
yeah, before we move on from nutrition, a lot of the time, folks are talking about nutrition in the scope of weight loss. That's not what we're talking about here, right?
yeah.
We're talking anybody can benefit from tweaking their nutrition.
Oh, nutrition is just about how we can show up healthy.
Mhm.
Now, weight loss will certainly come into play with that, but that's not my focus. Now, there are ways to increase our metabolism through nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a win-win, if you will. But nutrition is about our our bodies functioning like
Hmm.
they should. And if
Hmm.
we're not getting what we need, like for instance, our brain, okay? Because memory, is a big thing right now, type 3 diabetes, Alzheimer's, and all that.
Hmm.
Our brain is mostly water, like 70% water. If you're not hydrating throughout the day, your brain's not getting what it needs, which is why people get that 3 o'clock slump and think they need a cup of coffee, when in fact, they probably need a glass of water.
They just need some water.
The second thing the brain needs is healthy fats. That is
Mhm.
so vitally important. And so for me, if you're not eating it, and believe me, if you can get it from Whole Foods, and that's perfectly fine. So if you are eating not farm raised, but salmon, Atlantic salmon, or if you're eating avocados, or if you're using a good quality olive oil, you're probably getting the fatty acids that your brain needs and your body needs. It's not just your brain, it's your heart, everything. But if you're not, then you do need a good omega product that has the 3, 5s, and 7s. And I keep one in because I eat well, but maybe I don't have it every day. So I don't take it 30 days a month, but I might take it 10 times a month. And that's important to me because of my age. I'm in my 70s. So that's really important. The other thing our brain needs is the minerals.
Mhm.
And I believe that we're not really getting the minerals. Like I said, organic is certainly, whenever you can buy organic, you buy organic. Whenever you can get, like I said, no farm raised fish, I won't even buy that. We have to be conscious of that. But the minerals are something that is so important for us too. I think that
Mhm.
some people can look at their fingernails and they'll have like white dots in there, right? I don't mean the
Mhm.
moons, I'm talking about the white dots. Well, you're missing certain minerals. You need to look into that and have a supplement if that's what it needs.
Right.
Stress is just huge. I mean, honestly, stress is a killer.
Mm.
Your stress, when you talk about not, really everything, stress just causes inflammation. You're talking heart, you're talking cancer, you're talking diabetes, you're talking all of those things. But believe it or not, do you know what I consider the most important of all of these is our
What?
sleep. It's
Mm,
our sleep.
yes.
When we sleep, the body shuts down and it allows it to heal itself. If you're not getting proper sleep, and I don't care what anybody says, proper sleep is between 7 and 8 hours. It is.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I mean quality sleep. That is what your body needs to rejuvenate itself. And I think that when you have a good night's sleep, then you can
Mhm.
manage your own stress, and then you feel like maybe taking a walk or exercise. You know what I mean? Like that sleep just impacts everything. When we're tired, we don't even feel like fixing a healthy meal. So the
Right.
sleep to me is huge. Yeah.
I think that was one of the first things I learned as a yoga teacher, believe it or not,
Mhm.
is when we have a class full of students, that's one of the things that we're asking questions about. And if somebody has a sleep issue, that's the thing we're focusing on in the practice for
Yeah.
that day because it is such a critical piece of your health and well being. You can't function mentally, you can't function
Right.
physically. I mean, you can maybe for short spurts, but not
Mhm.
for the long term. It is critical. And then coming back to stress, my take on it, and I'm just curious if this resonates for you or if you have a different perspective on it. We're all going to have stress. We all have stress. And it's really managing our response to the
Absolutely.
stress
Yeah.
that I think you're talking about here, right?
Right. It's a good level of stress that's healthy for us, that
Mm-hmm.
keeps us from making wrong decisions and things like that. But it is our response, absolutely. And, it's interesting. Like I have a husband that he doesn't respond well to stress. And,
We
you
won't tell
know,
him.
yeah, we were supposed to have a new washer and dryer delivered on Thursday, and all of a sudden, oh no, you're not on the schedule. Well, I wasn't happy either, but I wasn't going to lean into that. So my
Mm-hmm.
system stayed calm to deal with the rest of my day, where he really ruminated on that all day long. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, how we respond to that stress is vitally important. And we can train ourselves again. We're powerful beings if we stay conscious and if we stay present and go, okay, I can worry about this and get all upset. Is it going to change it? Well, of course it's not. I wasn't going to get until today, no matter what. So yeah, it
Right.
is how we respond.
Sometimes
Yes,
some people don't like that phrase, but sometimes it is. There's some
absolutely.
things you can control and some things you can't control. And how you respond to those things that you can't control is going to impact
Right.
your joy, you know?
Like you said, you have to look at it. Is there anything that I can change about this situation?
Right.
And if there isn't, then you look at how you're going to respond. You can be
Yeah.
miserable all day if you want, but
Right. Back to
sure.
toddlerhood, right? Where we're throwing fits all day and standing in the corner, refusing to eat your peas.
But they can get up from that and just kind of pass off what just happened and they're back to
Right.
playing again.
That is
Right.
true.
That's right.
They're resilient little beings for sure.
Honestly, Kimberly, I'm very, very blessed. My life is not perfect. I have
Mm-hmm.
been through some tragedies and very hard times in my past. I am resilient.
Mm-hmm.
And I always kind of go to looking for the solution rather than wallowing in the story of that, if you will. We will be married 50 years in August. Thank you. So that is such a blessing, but I believe that is partly because of my outlook on life, where I can calm him down in the moment. Do you know what I mean? I mean, not
Yes.
not that I'm perfect, believe me. We
Right.
balance each other out. And
Yes.
I think that that's really important. But for the most part, I live a pretty wonderful life. I'm living down at the beach. I work from home, so I can pick and choose when I work. The type of business that I'm in that gives you time freedom doesn't mean you don't have to work. It just means you get to choose to
Right.
work. So if I want to stop at 3 o'clock and go to the beach or take a boat ride or something, I'm going to do that. And I do because self care is as important as all those other things, too.
Right. But it also means that you might be sitting there doing some work at 8 o'clock at night because you were able to take that boat ride earlier in the day, right? So
On
you get
me,
to design
on me
your
or good night.
well, that's your prerogative too.
I will get done what I have to get done and then go out. Now, that's not to say that if I have a client that calls me or a customer or something, absolutely, I'm going to answer that phone. I don't mean that I won't. But you know what else, Kimberly? I think that's also my age. You reach
Mm.
a point
Mhm. Mhm.
where I don't feel I need to do that,
Right.
you know.
Oh,
I'm not
absolutely.
I think that, it's that kind of thing where people say, well, what does success look like to you? Well, to
Mhm.
some people, it might mean that they're making, 100,000 or 500,000 or whatever. That's not what success looks like to me. Success looks like to me being healthy, having my family healthy, having enough money to enjoy life. I mean, I'm not saying money's not important. It is, but having the energy to do these things and just I don't know, having a delightful experience in my life. So that's what success means to me. That at my
Mhm.
age, I can, honestly say that I'm happy. You know,
I love that. And you look 20 years your junior at least. So
I
you
appreciate
wear it
that.
well.
People say, "Well, you certainly are a billboard for what you share," and I am.
Mhm.
But I also think that there is something about not just the products that you take, but your self care. Are you
Mhm.
taking care of yourself? Or are you taking care of everybody else and forgetting that, oh, I need to fill my bucket first, you know?
Yes.
So I think that that's part of it too. I genuinely believe that I've always taken care of myself. And I think
Mhm.
that's a big part of it too.
With somebody just starting to explore, designing their life, creating what they want, what advice would you give them to start? How do they even decide what it is that they want? Do you have any advice there?
Well, the key word there is start.
Yeah.
There
Yes.
is a plethora of wonderful information out there, podcasts like your own. There's YouTube out there. When it comes to health, I would tell you, do your research. And I don't mean Google is not research. That's a search engine. That's not research. So
Mhm.
I would tell people before you're going to engage in things to be very, very conscious of where you're getting your information.
Mm.
I like, for instance, there is the big thing with the GLP-1s right now, right?
Right.
I am not a big fan. However, there might be those circumstances where the benefits outweigh the negatives. But with something like that, for instance, don't be taken in by, oh my gosh, they lost 30 pounds. Okay, but we don't know long term yet.
Right.
We do know that there are people that have experienced stomach paralysis, that have gotten thyroid cancers, things like that. So I would just tell people, when you're looking at these, each new fad that comes in, truly do your research
Mhm.
and, you know, be conscious of the decisions that you make. Like I said, I understand that there are times I feel that way about antidepressants, right? That's
Mhm.
something that, if somebody is in a black hole, by all means, get an antidepressant, get out of that black hole. But antidepressants were never meant to be long term.
Right.
And I know this is another whole subject, but when you're on antidepressants long term, yes, you're not experiencing those dips, but you're also not experiencing those joy. And I used to work
Right.
with couples, and what I found out is the women that were on them long term, their life was almost flat. Like they really didn't have the desire maybe to have sex or to go on business trips with their husbands or to engage in different things, because they were just kind of neutral. And as I
Mhm.
mentioned earlier, it's a gut issue. Let's talk about that, because people can get off of those antidepressants. But as I said, there are those moments when they're vital. I understand that. Yeah.
Right. Well, you have to rely I think you have to rely on yourself first, your own gut, if you will, meaning your metaphorical gut, I guess,
Mhm.
but also your literal gut. Rely on yourself and your intuition is the word I was looking for.
There you go.
After you do all the research, do the research and then let your body kind of absorb that. This is my advice. I am not a doctor, but do the homework, trust your intuition, ask the questions, but don't assume that somebody else's experience is going to be your experience.
Correct.
Yeah. You don't
I
know
absolutely
what they
agree.
eat, how they live, what their
Yeah.
situation is. You don't know all of the information.
I think that you're right about listen to your gut. I would tell I when I raised my children, I always told them, don't make a decision from your head or your heart. Make it from your gut, because that's our higher self. And
Mhm.
so if you have these pieces of information, get quiet and
Mhm.
ask yourself, does this feel like the right thing for me? And if you don't get a clear answer, then talk to several people, not just one person.
Yes.
Talk to several people, and you will either align with the right person. You know what I mean? At the time, I
Mhm.
think that that's
You'll
just
know.
so very important. Yeah.
You'll know. And you will feel more empowered by whatever choice you make. Even if it's not the one that worked out great for you, at least you know you made the choice. And there's power in that because you're not a victim of somebody telling you what to do. You're
Right.
a powerful person who made the choice
That's
and
right. Well, we
and
have to
educated
take
yourself.
yes, we have to take responsibility for ourselves. I mean, some
Yes.
people just kind of feel like their doctor's responsible for their health. Well, they're not. You are.
Right. Right.
And I'll use this analogy a lot. If you only had one car, if the car you have right now is the last one you would ever have, would you take better care of it?
Yes.
Well, this is the last body you're ever going to have. So be
Right.
conscious of how you take care of that, right?
Yeah. Do you want to slide into home plate with the ball in the air, or do you wanna be wheeled in a wheelchair?
That,
And we can't control everything, but we can certainly sway things in our favor, I
yeah.
think.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. I mean, yes,
absolutely.
some things happen. We don't know why our journeys are what they are,
Mhm,
but that still doesn't mean that we can't take positive steps to maybe, not have those experiences. Like my gene pool is very poor, my family.
mm,
We have cancer and diabetes and arthritis. And so I was proactive about that so that hopefully I wouldn't experience those things. So at 73 years old, I don't experience any of those things,
mhm.
but I worked at it. I took responsibility for myself.
So, what's next on the journey for you, Patty? I know folks are gonna reach out to you to find out all about the whole depth of knowledge that you have, but let's talk about the future. What's next for you?
I know for
Mhm,
me, it is about even spending a little more time with family because I am getting older. My business is still, I I'll never stop working because
Mhm.
it brings me joy. It genuinely
Mhm.
brings me joy when I can change somebody's life or help them
Mhm.
change their own life, I should say, because I can, no matter what the health challenge is, we can help them, you know? And so that is pretty rewarding. So for me, that will continue. You know, I have
Mhm.
no intentions of stopping. Just to keep active, spend time with my family, enjoy
Mhm.
life because life
Mhm.
is short. It can change in a heartbeat, right? So
Yes.
I think that our outlook is vitally important. I spoke with a gentleman earlier today, and he had a near death experience. He experienced the lights and all that. And coming out of it, he said, I no longer fear death, which is
Right.
really a big fear that people have.
Right.
But now he just looks at life through a positive attitude, you know? And I think that it would bless us all if we did that.
Wonderful.
You know, we're blessed. We have, you know, my son's down here with his new wife, and that's just joyful. My daughter's only about an hour away, so that's not bad. But
That's
we have
awesome.
a lot of friends down here, so we're blessed. And friends are important, and some of those friends are family.
Patty, it's been a pleasure chatting with you today. I appreciate you swinging in and having a conversation about some really important stuff and sharing a little bit of your journey and your slice of life, if you will. I really appreciate it.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Kimberly.
Be sure to check the show notes for links mentioned in this episode and join us in the Living the Good Life Facebook community for previews of each episode, the opportunity to pose questions directly to our guests, bonus content, and a community of people committed to living their best life and sharing the journey. Thanks for listening. Let us know what value you received from this episode and what you'd like us to explore in the future in the comments. And please take a moment to drop us a like or some stars. I'm Kimberly Henry. Let's get out there and live the good life.